I'm King Lincoln. We're here today for the Humble Choice July 2020 review. Now, there are a lot of games this month, but the rules are the same as always. I spend 1 hour per game. I'll tell you why or why not you might want to check it out, and YouTube chapters are going to be available, so if you want to find a specific game, go for them. Let's dive right in. Age of Wonder Planetfall. If you take Civilization and merge it with XCOM, you get Age of Wonder Planetfall. You have a Civilization-based 4X game with diplomacy on a strange and unique planet. This is really what Beyond Earth promised, but didn't deliver on. The combat here, as you'll see on the screen, is an XCOM-style tactical battle system, even having Overwatch and similar. While you can do auto combat effectively, I find the combat here to be a very strong part of this game. There's even a campaign mode on top of all of this where you go to various worlds to complete quest-based objectives and follow a story of some sort. There's so much in this game though, I couldn't see everything in 1 hour. There's multiple factions, different victory conditions, the races look awesome, there's a huge tech tree, creating a unique commander which fits in with the faction system is really cool. There's so much here. I'll make it simple though. If you like Civilization, check this game out. If you also like XCOM, this is a must play. However, if you aren't a fan of 4X games already, or if you don't like Civilization, I don't think you're going to enjoy this one. I'd love to dig more into this one, but this is a game that's going to take like 10 to 20 hours before I feel very comfortable with it. Quick note though, if you want the premium version of Age of Wonder Planetfall, there's no way to upgrade to it. If that's something you want, it might be more beneficial to just buy the premium version because it's $10 over the season pass during the Steam sale. Void Bastards. Now this is one of my favorite games. It combines the style of System Shock 1 with roguelite elements, and it's just fun to play. You're a series of convicts trying to help your ship get back to the penal colony. The ship has multiple issues, so players are going to have to keep hunting down gear to assist. Much of the game is based on the rather small space stations and ships that players will have to gather resources from. These resources aren't always just for your goal, you can use them to improve your weapons, abilities, and more. And the crafting system is quite useful here. As I mentioned, you are a series of convicts, so it's similar to Rogue Legacy, where each character has different abilities, some of them have negative ones as well. Much of Void Bastards is played almost like a stealth game where you avoid combat rather than trying to take down every enemy, and the experience is rather good. I really like this one, like I've said. But there are complaints. Others have expressed that it's too easy, which, okay, it is. Though there are challenge modes if you want to make it much harder. And that it's also short, which, again, yes, that is correct. You can beat the game in about 12 to 16 hours, which is short for a roguelite, but there is replayability here. But yet, I like this one. It's got a great art style, interesting gameplay, solid game design. I even did a video on Void Bastards, which I'll link at the end of this video. Still, roguelites are a bit hit or miss category, and with a lack of focus on combat, some players will probably not enjoy this as much. I still think this is a very solid choice for the month though. Railway Empire. Now this is a game where you run a railroad company and you have to service towns by supplying goods. It's another one where I think I understand some of it after an hour, but I only played 1 out of possibly 5 chapters and there's far more that I think I have to learn. Much of the game is about building new stations, tracks, and creating lines that are trying to ensure that you can deliver goods to each town. The challenge is that not every town needs every good, so you're going to really be building supply chains as you work on the railroad. There's a lot of little issues I actually had with this game. Creating the rail lines is intuitive, but you can also easily break a rail line or not connect it properly if you're not paying attention, which set me back about 20 minutes at one point as I tried to figure out a race condition. You see, the game really doesn't give you great information about issues that come up. It tries, but it's not the best. I think I prefer this game to Rise of Industry from a couple months ago though. It is in the same genre, but I like how this one flows and plays better. I would have to play more to say conclusively though. The first hour, this is fun, and I would like to play more. It's made by the same publisher as Tropico, though I think I like this one a little bit more than Tropico. If you're a fan of railroads and trains, I think it's obvious this is for you. If you're a fan of city builders, you'll probably have a great time with this, but action and adventure fans, you can safely skip this one. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. Now this is a space fleet simulator similar to AI War with a mix of frozen synapse as well. You'll issue orders, tell your fleet what you want them to do, and the enemy, in this case the Cylons of course, will do the same. Then the game will simulate the results. The goal is to outmaneuver and destroy enemy units in epic space battles. With that said, I'll admit I'm not a huge Battlestar fan. I did watch the new series once, but I don't think it matters too much here. The concept is good, the battles here feel large and important, but I'm still in the early game here. There are a couple of different campaigns included here as well, so there's a decent amount of content. If there is a problem though, Battlestar Galactica is a bit slow. You're making orders and then you have to execute them, and the executing takes a long time. You can't queue up multiple moves that you want to do in order, such as doing a 180-degree turn will require 2 or 3 consecutive orders, rather than just marking where you want the ship to eventually reach. Still, there's a lot of interesting tactics here. I don't think this game is limited to just Battlestar fans though, but I personally probably will not return. The concept is worth checking out, and the gameplay is solid. If you like AI War from a couple choices ago and want a turn-based version of the combat there, this is it. Yuppie Psycho. Now this is a horror game, and admittedly I don't like horror games. Except for maybe Resident Evil, I don't even like scary games at all. So I don't like Yuppie Psycho, of course. I might not be the right person to listen to on this one, but I'll give it my best shot. Yuppie Psycho tries entirely too hard to make you feel uneasy throughout the game, and I think it starts working after a bit. Like the first 10 minutes or so feel out of place, the writing feels weak, but the writing starts to work after that point, and it gets far better after the strange opening. This is also a creepy freaking game, and I thought about what I would show, but I honestly have to show the disturbing parts like this because that is a majority of the game. I'd be lying otherwise. I also have to say the art is extremely solid, the game is good in every way it should be. It's just a genre and a style I have absolutely no interest in playing. I feel bad because I actually really do want to play more, but I also really don't. As I said, this is a horror game, not really survival horror or action horror, but a horror RPG for the most part. I think you already know if you're going to like this one just from what I've been saying, but this is mostly going to appeal to that horror niche, and anyone who doesn't like scary games probably will want to skip this. So, quick related question. How many dead bodies would you have to see on the first day of work to excuse yourself politely and leave immediately? Personally, I think my number would be 1. I might even leave if there was just a serious injury. Maybe the main character is a psycho. Beat Hazard 2. What if the music you're listening to could change the game and give you a unique experience based on the songs that are being played? That's the thought behind Beat Hazard, and now the sequel tries to capture it again. I think they've actually succeeded in that area. You can play any of the game's tracks or built-in radio stations, but now Beat Hazard 2 allows you to load in with any music or audio playing on your computer. It even detects the songs and will give you leaderboards against other players who play the exact same songs. That's a cool feature when it works. The gameplay is a simple twin-stick shooter, but the first game gave me a ton of fun and I would play with the streaming music for hours. Now with the ability to load up any song I want from Spotify through the open microphone system, I can imagine playing even more. There's even workshop support and a ship customizer, even challenges as well. The downside though is everything feels a bit hacked together though, and the UI could use some work. When it works, the experience here is solid, yet not every song I tried worked well, and the game feels a touch too random at times. I actually had some extra issues last night, just with the game misidentifying songs. The goal here is to have fun while playing music, and it does a great job with that. If you're a fan of music with a good bass line or drum beat, especially electronica, you'll find an interesting and unique game here. It's not very deep, but it's a lot of fun, and the music rhythm genre is one that's woefully unexplored, especially with auto-generated gameplay. If you like auto-sync or games like that, you'll probably enjoy this one. Sigma Theory Global Cold War. This is a Cold War-style espionage game focused on scientific discovery. The game is entirely menu and choice-driven, with the player just moving their agents around the world. The odd piece, though, is every country competes. So the US is competing against Russia, China, and Turkey, of course, but also the UK, South Korea, and Japan. And it sounds like they're World War stakes, so it's a bit strange. Conceptually, this is a good game, but as I played it, I just wasn't that excited by the concept. It hurt that Phantom Doctrine was out at the beginning of the year in the humble choice, and while that is a retheming of XCOM, it's still a really great game. Sigma Theory feels like a boring spy game, which is probably a bit more realistic, but not that interesting. I had a few bugs as well during the tutorial, which didn't help, though the exfiltrations are kind of cool, though they're very random, and since you can see all your character's abilities, it's just a simple game of risk aversion. If you want a whole Cold War style gameplay and fighting over scientists, this game is fine. It is very board game-ish, but there's a lot of menu-based gameplay here, and while that's almost a standard humble choice thing, this one feels just a bit weak. Metal Unit. Now this is either a story-based or a roguelite platformer action game depending on where you are in it. The tutorial stage here has a lot of story and development, though it's a little bit obvious where the story is gonna go, I think. The story isn't the strongest point, but there's a huge effort to tell it. The problem is, the first stage after that tutorial is just a roguelite style run of about 10 to 20 levels with a giant boss at the end. It does have some dialogue right before that boss, but the huge story from the first level of the game, the tutorial, just disappears, and that's quite a change. Now, the game itself is kind of a generic anime girl in a mecha platformer. You have an inventory system with semi-randomized weapons, which provides an interesting experience, but the game itself feels a little bit half-baked, which it probably is because it's in early access. The results feel more like a generic roguelite platformer than something that really stands out. If you love games like Dead Cell and want to go back to the point where they weren't complete, then Metal Unit is here. It's not broken, nothing is awful, but there's also nothing that really makes me recommend this over games that are already out. It's similar to Barotrauma from last month. Maybe pick this up and hang on to it until it gets a full release. Now, there is a demo in the Steam store for Metal Unit. I imagine it's just going to be that tutorial area, which will give you a false impression of the game as mentioned, but I'm not sure about that. Don't Escape 4 Days to Survive. Now, this is a point-and-click adventure game with a couple of twists on the formula. The first is that this is a time-based game, and that's done by counting time during certain actions, not by real time. So it'll take time for specific actions that the game will inform you about before trying. There's also a little bit of resource management here with a specific carry weight, though there are multiple challenges. Actually, on the first day, I got the Locust Challenge, but you can also get Poisonous Gas or Spiders instead, and each challenge needs to be handled in a slightly different way. The time aspects make the game feel a lot more interesting than a normal point-and-click adventure game. It's not long, taking about maybe 4 hours to beat, but with multiple events happening, you'll probably want to play through this a couple times. If you like adventure games, this is pretty good. It's not that heavy on the resource management side, though there is a bit of that with the time limit. I actually might return and finish a full playthrough of this one. At the same time, it is a bit on the short side, so if you want a very long game, it's not going to do that. Verlet Swing. So what happens when you combine the childhood game of The Floor is Lava with a grappling hook? Well, Verlet Swing, of course. That's why I'm bringing it up. This is similar to either a 3D version of Remnant of Nazith from last month or a story about my uncle with one major difference. You can't land or touch any solid object. The constant sense of speed and danger works well here, and I found the game to control far better than I expected. The player has to keep moving in almost every situation, but they have a decent amount of control in the air, and it feels incredible. The movement feels fluid, and I was able to get through the first 60 or so levels in about an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. On screen is the third grouping of areas, and every 20 levels or so change up the theming on the game. In this section, we're actually focused on food, thus the pizza slices. Every level is pretty interesting and has a different challenge, with the perfect time being ridiculously tight on every level. Most levels can be beaten in under 10 seconds, but you're going to have to master the game to perfect those levels. If you're a fan of grappling hook games or speedruns, this game is great. The controls are very fluid and the experience is intense. Though what you see is what you get. There's no combat, no walking around, you're just swinging on surfaces and avoiding touching anything. Basingstoke. I think that's how you pronounce it. So Basingstoke is a survival horror roguelike game. With the art style, it appears to be nothing that special, but the gameplay here is actually really well done. The goal is to reach each safe house and try to survive. How you reach that safe house differs. For the first few levels, you can run around with your flashlight on, gathering supplies and dodging the horde, though after a while you start to realize that's probably not the best strategy. Instead, Basingstoke offers a skillful stealth system focused on staying in the shadows when possible and moving slowly. The stealth here is really good, the enemy AI is top-notch, and the enemy will often give up once you move away in the darkness. The animations are great, and the game itself is solid. Even the roguelite elements have a ton of variety, so you might have to go through a store multiple times on different lives in the same area, but each time the layout of the store will be different with different possibilities available. When I saw it was a survival horror game, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but this is a really good game that focuses more on tense situations than trying to just scare the player, and it's more focused on resource management than horror. There's also multiple characters in the game with different gear and a different intro for each of them. If you like survival horror, obviously check this one out, but if you're a fan of stealth games or even isometric action games, this one still might be worth a look. It's a challenging game, but a lot of fun as well. Earthlock. Now, this is an interesting JRPG-ish. Technically, this is an American company, but I don't think the country of origin matters when talking about the genre of JRPGs. So it's a standard turn-based RPG. It has a variety of skills, different characters, and each character has 2 stances, which changes the abilities that they have. There's an ammo system for weapons, a decent cast of characters. I've actually already seen 5 playable characters out of possibly 6. The writing, though, is merely okay from what I've seen. There's a few overworld systems with each of the characters gaining a different ability. There's also a bit of a lack of challenge from the game so far, but yeah, I'm still in the first hour, it can change. The only real red flag I saw was my completion percentage on my save game is like 16% in under an hour. However, other people on the internet have said the game will last at least 20 hours, so you're probably safe from a shockingly short game. If you like JRPGs, pick this one up. I've had a good time so far, I might come back to play more. A 20-hour JRPG sounds just right, but if you want a longer game, it's probably not going to be this. So those are the main choices this month. As always, there are 2 bonus games, and we'll start looking at those with Grotto. Grotto is a game where the player is an oracle of some sort. Various petitioners will come and ask for the oracle's wisdom. The player has to read the night sky in a series of stars to come up with an answer to their question. You can be vague or rather specific depending on the sign you see. Now, the playthrough I had seemed to change the story based on my choices, and I got a rather specific ending. I don't have any way to know if my ending was the only one, as it's rather hard to find information with such a generic name as Grotto for the game. I will try to leave my ending in the comments. Feel free to let me know yours or if you got the same as mine. But I imagine multiple endings are dependent on what you tell people. It's an interesting look at the idea of soothsayers and how they can be interpreting the same sky to be really what they want, and then how the receivers of those predictions can interpret the prediction as they want. Overall, it's an interesting game and can be played in about an hour or so. It's worth checking out, but it's not exactly a bundle mover on its own. And then there's Popup Dungeon, which is a strange demo that promises the game is made using just their tools. They say they can take any image and create enemies and characters based on them, which is a pretty strong boast, but not really shown in the demo except as an example. The game is mostly moving your characters around a board, which is made of papercraft designs and attacking monsters. There's actually a lot of potential in this game, and I ended my playthrough a bit early, but I'm curious if the final game will come through on the promises and boasts made. This feels a bit like Little Big Planet, where the game will be good, but the real test is going to be the community that gathers around it. Will the community modules take this game from a simple concept to a massive hit, or will it be limited to just what the company releases? I think there's actually a lot of potential from what I saw, and the idea that you can create your characters, skills, enemies, and possibly world makes me think this could be a big hit. But it is only a demo here, and I mean, it's just showing what the game could be like. I am hopeful for it, though. So that's what you get in the Humble Choice for July 2020. There's also another mystery game this month. I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be a standard thing moving forward, which is a shame because, well, I did like the Humble Monthly with everything being hidden outside of a big name game. Hiding one game feels cheap, as if they're trying to buy into the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Now, last month we also had a mystery game which actually turned out to be Boundless. You won't be able to get that game this month, but if you subscribed last month, let's take a quick look for you. Boundless is a Minecraft-style MMO where the player can fully explore a world that's shared with other players. Players can actually claim land, build on it, and share it with other people. What you're seeing is a city built by what I assume is multiple people, and it's rather impressive. There's even unmanned shops and more that the player can collaborate on and even buy stuff from. I was ready for another Minecraft clone, and that is what Boundless is at bit, but it feels more like Minecraft 2.0 instead of just a knockoff. My only complaint so far is that there are microtransactions, though if you're going to let your kids play, you can disable them with parental settings. The prices are probably fair for them, but I do find them a bit too high because, honestly, I hate microtransactions, and I think most people should. Still, you can earn the funds in-game as well, but that's going to take you a lot of time. Now, if you did own last month's bundle, check this one out, especially if you like Minecraft. I think this is very well done and deserves more attention. Honestly, it probably should have headlined an entire bundle. I will caution you not to judge this month's mystery bundle on that because really the game this month could be anything. As I have said, just assume it's a $10 to $15 game you already have in your library because that's what it might be. With that said, what about this month? There's a few games that have been in other bundles, but not an excessive amount. Void Bastards was in the Australian Fire Relief bundle, and Yuppie Psycho was in the Award Winner bundle. The rest are new to Humble, but a couple have been bundled elsewhere. Not really too many, though. I have to say that's a good improvement. I actually had to buy one of the games this month as I needed 11 of them. The cheapest this month was Verlet Swing, which goes for $5 during the Steam sale right now, and the next highest was going for $7.49, which are Metal Unit and Don't Escape. So there's a lot of value in this bundle as well. Still, there are only 2 or 3 games I would say are amazing, and yet overall, it's a solid month, but there are a lot of mouse-driven games here, meaning games that aren't really good on a controller, which is what I personally prefer. There's also not a ton of action, but I think the list is a good mix. It's not like that one month where every game was a strategy RPG. This month I've actually had trouble making my best and worst lists because I don't think there's many bad games or games that people will avoid. In fact, I'm going to rename those lists to better reflect what they mean. The idea here is that since you can only buy 3, 9, or 10 games, let's choose which games you might want to skip or might want to pick up. I'm renaming them to the strongest and the weakest of the month. Starting on the bottom. The 5th weakest this month is Earthlock. It's an average JRPG, but it's just average. I don't see it surprising me much more. It's not a bad experience, mind you, but it's not particularly strong. And if you skip this one, I think you'll be just fine. The 4th weakest is Metal Unit, and this is really here because it's in early access. In a few months, this game might come out and it might be amazing, but it also might stay at the same level, and I don't think the story is particularly strong at this point. The gameplay feels like it's in early access. I still think it's fine, but it's really a gamble at this point, very similar to Barrow Trauma from last month. 3rd weakest this month is Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. Again, not a terrible game, but turn-based space battles are probably going to be a niche group. The theme doesn't feel particularly necessary, so non-fans can get into it, but there's actually 8 other games I would put over this. 2nd weakest is Yuppie Psycho. I think this might be the strongest game graphically. The art here is really great, and the animations are so well done. But dear God, this is a niche game. If you like horror, maybe buy the bundle just for this one. That's how good it can be. But I'm not a horror fan. I'd still recommend this game, but only to people who really love the genre, which probably tells you how effective the horror is. The weakest game this month is Sigma Theory Global Cold War. This might be the only game this month I don't recommend, even if it's just barely there. Even with the tutorials causing issues, I really don't think this is a bad game, just not a very exciting one, and every month there's going to be a game that doesn't click or is the weakest. Sigma Theory is it. I don't hate any game this month, but I did enjoy my time with Sigma Theory, and more time with it will likely not fix it. Ultimately, this is the game I would least recommend. And so with all of those out of the way, let's go back and look at the strongest now. The 5th strongest game this month is Don't Escape 4 Days to Survive. This is a rather short game, and yet I talk a lot about a game being as long as it needs to be. Don't Escape doesn't need to be more than a few hours long, especially with the replayability. The concept is fresh, and there's an interesting challenge to it. I'm actually probably going to finish this one off myself. 4th strongest this month is Railway Empire. I enjoyed playing this game, and it's another one I plan on playing more of. Running the railway and trying to profit from it seems pretty interesting, and making effective train lines is really good. There's at least one Steam review of a guy who has over 1,000 hours into this game, and I can fully believe that. It doesn't have the longest campaign, but it has the potential to keep players playing as long as they really want to go. The 3rd strongest this month is Basingstoke. This was an interesting stealth game. I really like the gameplay here, and I'm interested to see how well this holds up over the whole game. It's actually not something that I've played multiple times before, and that's a really strong point. The art style actually has grown on me, and it's sold me on the concept as well. 2nd strongest game this month is Void Bastards because I get to say bastards. Also, it's a fun game, of course, and I'm not kidding when I say this is one of my favorite games I've played all year so far. It's a roguelite that actually gives you a set campaign length, so you're not just playing endlessly, and it's an interesting concept. There's a feeling of progression as well all throughout the game, and there's a couple of clever systems, so there's more than one way to actually beat the game. I actually like this one a lot, and that's after playing the entire game. Finally, the strongest of the month, it's Age of Wonder Planetfall. It's Civilization, it's XCOM, and that alone should make most fans buy it. I've not played a game like this before, and admittedly, I've never played any of the Age of Wonders before this, but this one makes me want to have time to tackle it and the entire series. This is incredibly unique and worthy of being a headliner. So that's what I have for Humble Choice July 2020. This wasn't the strongest month, unfortunately, but I think on average, each game is worth checking out. If you do want Age of Wonder Planetfall or Void Bastards, though, this is a great way to play either of those games, or both of them. Thank you for watching this far. Now, I hope you'll give me one quick moment of your time. Last month, I mentioned hoping to reach 1,000 subs. I was within spitting distance. I just want to thank everyone because I've smashed that goal to shreds, and I'm still growing quite quickly. I'm sure some people are watching this video, so I want to give a very sincere thank you to everyone. It means the world to me, and I'll try to continue to live up to your support. Of course, if you haven't subbed or you want to ring that bell, you can consider it now. I will appreciate it just the same as I always have. I'm going to throw up two videos here. We have a video on what makes Void Bastards stand out with a focus on the design of the game, which is what I do on this channel. And then I have a review series that I do in a similar style to the Humble Choice. So if you want to find out what else I've been playing over the last couple of months, you can always check that out. Until then, I'm King Lincoln. Thank you for watching.